right, so now we're ready to go into battle. That's like our battle cry because I feel like getting into business sometimes can be a battle, right, Joe?
Oh, it's a battlefield, baby.
So, all right, this is our fourth episode of Learn from My Mistake podcast. Again, I'm Marie Baginski coming at you from Phoenix, Arizona. My business partner Jake, unfortunately, is on the road today, so we'll just see him or hear from him, not really see his face. But Jake, you can still hear us? You there?
I'm hearing audio and spirit.
Audio and
Yeah,
spirit.
you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Absolutely.
So great. Well, I'm so excited today because, we met Joe at our mastermind, the boardroom mastermind. And Joe, I think you just had so much good input during the breakout sessions and you were given so much great advice. And when you agreed to be part of this podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, Joe is going to be able to drop bombs on people like golden nuggets of
We gonna try.
We're gonna try. No, I'm setting the bar high.
All right. We up here, baby.
So, Joe, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your history in real estate and business first.
All right. So, a little bit about myself. I have been in the real estate business for about 20 years now. I started out as a fix and flipper. I kind of want to say I picked it up from my grandfather. First of all, immigrant parents came here from Honduras. My dad was actually a Vietnam veteran, which caused me to join the Army. I'm an Army veteran. And that was kind of my path. I saw my grandfather, buy a duplex, buy a triplex, fix this house up and fix this house up and sell it. And I didn't know at a young age that was kind of shaping my mental. And then I saw my parents do it because we lived in a house and we lived on one side and we rented out the other. And as a young man, as a youth, these things were starting to be instilled in me, but I didn't really know how to unlock it yet, right?
Yeah.
I would stay up. I'd see like the infomercials back then, like the Carlton Sheets and all that kind of stuff. And I just knew like one day I want to do real estate. I just don't know how.
Right.
So fast forward from that, I joined the military. I got out, and I got an apartment above a gentleman that had a mortgage, general contracting, and a real estate office. And I'm in my early 20s. I have no clue what I'm doing, but I asked the gentleman because I'm seeing he's got like the nice Ferrari and he's got the Land Rover. I'm like, dude, what do you do?
Right.
And he's like, I buy and sell real estate. I buy them low when they're crappy and I fix them up and I sell them and a lot of them I keep, which gives me cash flow. And I'm like, what does all that mean?
Right.
And so I actually, didn't have money to pay this gentleman to be my mentor. But what I did do is I was able to give him an active service. So I would go down each night when he closed, like around 6, and I clean his office. And he would teach me real estate. And I mean, I did that for like 6 months, and man, the light bulb just kind of went off. From there, I mean, just from the skills that he ingrained in me, I was able to look. I graduated high school, had barely a little bit of college, but from there, I was able to go on and work at some of the biggest banks, Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, as a mortgage broker, and even lead a whole office. But even then, in my 20s, I still didn't really get it. It really didn't pop in my head until about, I say, my late 20s, early 30s, when I bought my own very first investment property that myself and my dad and my uncles, we went through and rehabbed everything. You should have seen me over there laying tile, putting up drywall. It was crazy.
You were doing it all yourself.
I installed the toilet. It was crazy. But I saw the power. We bought it for like, I want to say like 38, maybe 40,000, and sold it for like 110. And I'm like 30, maybe 31. No, I had to be 30. But this is back in like 2021. I'm sorry, 2001. So just to give you an idea of how long ago this was. And I sold it and I have all this money. And I'm like, oh, this works.
Right.
Let's go do this again and again and again. So mistake number one, right? And I'll give it to everyone. It's not all funny money. You have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that was basically my the beginning of my real estate journey. And from there, obviously, I've honed my skill since then. Flipped hundreds of houses, wholesale thousands. I now own like apartment buildings and things of this nature. But man, you want to talk about trial and error to get where I'm at right now. Where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, I think you brought up already so many amazing points. Like, number one, kudos to you for being like, well, I couldn't pay for a mentor, but I just went and worked for him every day.
Yeah,
Right.
work for
Like,
free. Yeah.
Yeah, I
a
love that.
lot of people, like, I think they're struggling to get started and they see these big price tags on a lot of these mentorship programs and they're like, I can't afford to pay that. So how do I
Yeah,
get
for sure.
started? And, I really like want to congratulate you and give you like mad props, like mad respect for
Thank
that,
you.
because
Thank you.
that's, something that not everybody will do and take the time to learn that way. But that, I'm sure, was very, very valuable in your whole process.
No, no, absolutely. And look, that dude is super special. I mean, he had not only helped me, he helped a bunch of people understand the real estate game in our area here in Tampa. And I mean, we're still cool to this day. I still see him. We still hang out. Yeah, he's the man.
Nice.
Awesome.
So I guess once you got started, right? So you flip this first house, you're like, oh yeah, I got money. You
Yep.
mentioned one mistake. You said taxes. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that. What was like the big aha moment or
Sure.
like lesson learned related to taxes?
All right. So first of all, make sure you find a good accountant in this business that understands what you're doing in real estate, because that's super important. You can't have just like H&R Block doing your taxes, because that's not going to work, right? You have to have someone that knows what they're doing and knows how to, give you the most benefit when you're doing it. How to write up all the material that you have, your workers, make sure everybody gets 1099s. But as a flipper, that's active income, so
Yeah.
it's taxed at a higher tax bracket. So if you're not doing a 1031 exchange, we'll see things I learned afterwards. Didn't have a clue what a 1031 exchange was back then.
Right.
You are now liable for those taxes. So end of the year comes up and I go to do my taxes, and dude's like, yeah, you owe the government like 20 grand. I'm like, what do you mean?
Right.
I was like, how the hell did that happen? He's like, well, you did this and you got this much money and it's 35%. I was like, holy crap. I was like, maybe this isn't worth it. He's like, well, let me sit down and my guy, the accountant Charles, he passed away, but he was a great accountant. And he was like, well, let me show you what you should be doing in order to avoid having to pay that much. Because I didn't have anybody with a 1099 from the contractors that worked on the property. So I had to pay it off. I was not keeping receipts of anything I bought, running back and forth to, like, back then it was Ace Hardware and Home Depot was still around, but it wasn't as big as it is now. And those are all huge things to write off. And if you
Right.
don't have those things, yeah, well, man, the tax guy's like, yo, where's my money?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, a lot of people probably, I mean, I know what a 1031 exchange is, but for everyone listening, there's going to be some people that don't know what it is. And really, from my understanding, you can't do a 1031 on something you're fixing flipping anyway, right? A 1031 exchange is meant for when you're selling a property that you've been holding as a rental and you plan on upgrading or buying, into something else. So, have you completed some 1031s in the past?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, what a 1031 is, well, here in Florida, it's just deferring the payment on your federal capital gains, right? And whether, I mean, because like, okay, it took me so long to flip that house because it was my first one. I think I owned it like 13 or 14 months. So I
Okay.
had it long enough that I could actually have done that
You could have done the 1031.
if I knew better, right? Um, but yeah, you just have to make sure when you're doing these kind of things that you have, you know, man, you have so many tools now, right? Imagine back then, and let's all just imagine 21 years ago, right?
Hmm.
I think that's when MySpace was hot. No Instagram, no TikTok,
Just
no,
AOL Instant Messenger, Joe. AOL
yeah,
Instant Messenger back in the day.
yeah, that's exactly what it was, right? There was none of that back then, right? No
Yep.
Facebook, because I think what Facebook is maybe 20 years old, but it wasn't popular back then.
Mm-mm.
And so we had none of those resources, right? And but now you can Google or GPT chat everything and
Yeah.
get the answer, right? So that's why I mean I don't know. I mean personal opinions is like everyone can get the answers they're looking for, like the real answers, not like guessing, okay, well, maybe this will work. Real answers, real concrete answers on questions that you have to make things work and to be more efficient, which now in today's size is huge. It's just super huge.
Yeah. So, at least for taxes, I've been talking to a lot of people lately about the profit first model, right? If you're running a business, I
Love
don't know if
profit
you've ever
first.
read, right? So, you've read Profit First, and it's like you got to make sure you actually create that separate sub account to account for those taxes because, fixing and flipping is, like you said, an active part of the business and you are going to get taxed on it. And
Absolutely.
making sure you have those separate bank accounts, I think, is key. Um,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you got to have like I know. I mean, that's actually the model that my wife and I run. So we have our profit, we have our taxes, we have our employees, and we have our expenses. You gotta be man. If you run your business like that, you will be light years of all your competition because nobody else is doing that. I know my account that I use now. At first, he was kind of, "Why do you have so many bank accounts?" But I gave him the book. He's like,
yeah.
"Roger." He's like, "Roger that." So, all right, so we're good.
Yeah. I mean, it's powerful, especially like I know Jake, right? Jake, how long were you in business wholesaling before we teamed up and you never paid yourself first?
Oh man, I would say probably at least 9 or 10 months. Everything just kept going right back into the company, and I was like, okay, if I make 9,000 here, it's costing me 5,000 for all my marketing and OpEx and everything. Let's just dump that 4,000 back into marketing and try to double down. Yeah, there was no visibility on like taxes, profit, everything else that was
Yeah,
going on.
absolutely. Because look, I own a nationwide wholesale company, and man, I mean, because look, I was only introduced to that profit first 3, 4 years ago, maybe,
Mhm.
Okay.
and that's when I first put it into place. Was in my wholesale company because Jake, man, I had the same issue. Like I'm paying all of my employees, so I'm paying on payroll, my expenses, the rent because we thought we needed a big office, and
Mhm.
that's a whole nother story. But once we were able to implement that and kind of be laser focused on exactly what we were doing, and we could see the numbers. Okay, this went there. Okay, I can cut that off. I can turn this up. I mean, that was a whole nother level for us.
Yeah. That's awesome. So that was a game changer in your business. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely.
all right. So if I'm a brand new real estate investor just starting out right now, tell me what do you think is like the biggest pitfall, biggest mistake that if you would go back 100% of the time, you'd change that one thing?
Man, the first thing I would have done is, well, I mean, let's talk about uh, different sections, right? So, learning how to fix and flip, I had a mentor or a coach and didn't realize what it was at the time. And then, I was doing really well. The crash happened in 2008. Man, lost everything, like $2 million, and got back into the business when I heard about this whole thing called wholesaling. But I mean, I knew what it was before because me and a lot of my investor buddies were doing it already. We just called it a signing a contract. I don't know
Mhm.
who named it wholesaling, but whatever. And but that's what I would have done. I would have got a mentor to show me how to do that business. Because man, I was stubborn, I was hard headed or pig headed, however you want to say it, and thought I don't need nobody. I know what I'm doing. I can figure this out. I've done this before. all these
Right.
people, they're these all these young guys, they're doing this and they just started. Of course, I can do this, not knowing that they had mentors or coaches that were helping them get, to the next level, to the next step, and watching their progression and okay, tweak this, fix that. Um, and that's, I can tell you, man, that was a huge, huge mistake not having that guidance because it ended up being, don't get me wrong. I mean, our wholesale company has made millions of dollars, but we've also lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Bad people in the wrong people in the wrong seat, wrong marketing program, wrong processes and systems. But all that could have been avoided if I would have just spent the money and said, okay, let me slow it down. Let me get a mentor or coach that really knows what they're doing
Yeah.
and that has been successful at this. And then I wouldn't be hitting all these pitfalls and having to deal with all these hurdles.
I love that advice. Jake, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I'm actually, thanks for passing the mic to me real quick because I was going to say that's something that's been huge for me too. Because I think I'm definitely the junior investor on the podcast here in a lot of scenarios, and I can absolutely say that mentorship and coaching that I have received has been the one thing that has kind of allowed me to accelerate a little bit faster than some of my local peers or some of the people that are just, they see the price tag or they see the effort that you're going to have to put in to work with somebody like you did with, cleaning or, just working nights to be able to give back to somebody. And there's so much value in it. It's hard to put into words, like exactly what you're going to get back. There's no way to calculate the ROI on that, but it's huge. It's
no, you're absolutely correct. Like I can tell you guys 100%. The boardroom mastermind that we're in now is the first mastermind that I actually have ever paid to be in. I always thought I knew it all. I could figure it out. And man, just in the time I've been in here, it's like, why was I such an idiot?
Yeah.
So, I could have been sent somewhere to yacht by now.
Yeah, right. I kind of have a specific question, if we can, real quick,
Sure.
Joe. Yeah. So you are the first guest that we've had on, I believe. I would have to go back and confirm, but certainly the first solid hua we've gotten on the podcast here. So I want to see, was there anything that you've been able to do with VA loans in your time? Is there anything that you've done with VA loans or any mistakes maybe that you've made with VA loans? Is there anything there that you can touch on?
Not really. The only thing that I've done with a VA loan is the one that I have for myself.
Yep.
I've used the VA program, awesome program, 100%. You don't pay anything except to close the cost. It's an outstanding program that the government does for veterans. Absolutely. But I know, and I can tell people that may have the opportunity to use their VA or that program is you can use it up to a 4 unit. It's 1 to 4 units. So if you are stationed somewhere right now and you are renting an apartment, we all know how high rent is everywhere right now. Go find yourself a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, and use that program to now live rent-free, because you can live in 1 unit for free and rent the other out, or rent the other 2 out or 3 out if it's a fourplex. And now whenever you move or get restationed, put it with a property manager. Let them manage it for you while you go off to whatever your other duty station is. And imagine if I would have done that with everywhere that I was stationed. Just the little portfolio I could have built up over $1 million. Because you'll have that house for what, 10, 15 years? And look, and it's away from you. You probably set it and forget it, right?
Yeah.
All you do is get the check in the mail. And now where everybody wants to be is getting that passive income. Because by the time you're in the military and you retire 20 years, you probably own them all free and clear. And now they're just cash cows for you. So, I mean, if I was a soldier or an airman or a Marine, or that's what I would tell them. I was like, look, Coast Guard, take advantage of that program, buy you something, because now you can homestead it in whatever state that's in. Get that money because it's there, it's free, and if you know what you're doing, you can start to build your rental portfolio for one day down the line when you, I don't know, you want to get married, or you want to buy your dream house, or just for to have an asset to add to your bottom line, to add to your asset column for a rainy day one day.
Yeah, I love that advice because I mean, I'm not in the military, but when I was working as an engineer, I used to give that very similar advice actually to engineers, obviously without a VA loan, but we'd have guys come in and they're starting salary 60 grand a year, right? They just graduated. And I'm like, you're like 20 something years old. Go buy a house, rent out the rooms to your friends that weren't engineers from college. And in,
Yes,
in a
yes,
few
yes.
years, save up that money, go buy another house because you're going to get engaged or you're going to get married and you're going to want to live with your wife. But you keep that first house as a rental and you go buy your next house as a, your homestead property, as the house you want to live in, and just keep doing that every 5 years. I'm like, when you are 50 years old, you're going to have 5 of these properties, in the bank, maybe paid off, but forget about relying on just your 401k, right? Now you have this whole other stream of income just by doing that every
Here,
few
and
years.
let me just add to that, right? Because we all know what the military gets paid, right? It's not that much, but they give you all the
Right.
other benefits, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you did that 2 or 3 times, right? And say you're a
Mhm.
different duty station, or you only once or twice. You would be able to replace your whole salary
Yeah.
with 1 or 2 properties.
Yeah.
And now you're basically living the rest of your life rent free.
Yeah. I love that. And Joe, I'm just curious because, were there other benefits of being in the military, like, Navy Federal Credit Union, I know is a credit union out here that's for their
Absolutely.
service members. Like, are there, and
You
they
got that.
also
You got the
offer like,
Pentagon Credit Union.
right. And they offer like business accounts, business credit cards and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. So have you
Absolutely.
ever tapped into or used anything like that?
Absolutely. So for all
Yeah.
our businesses, and man, so bad, so upset my wife couldn't join us, but she's the queen of business credit, and
Nice.
she definitely tells everyone how to set up your business exactly the way you need to, so that you can get approved for things just like that.
Yeah.
And if you follow the process, and sometimes she just gives it away, within 60 to 90 days, she can get you like 100, 120, 150 grand
I
of
love it.
business credit. And
Well,
Wow.
then,
we're
and
gonna
then
have we're gonna have Lisa scheduled on her own
Sure,
podcast.
absolutely. Because then she shows people how to use, like for instance, Jake, I'm like in our wholesale business, right? We're spending for marketing, we're
Yeah.
spending for this, we're spending for that. Imagine spending all that money every month and now getting points for that. And like when I go to boardroom, I fly first class for free.
Right.
Nice.
I mean,
Yeah.
and those are the things that everyone's doing. But if you're not in the know, if you don't have the knowledge, you can't figure that stuff out. But the
Yeah.
knowledge is out here. You just have to know how to apply it. And then I know like a lot of people try to go like on YouTube or whatever, but there's so much information there, it kind of bogs your mind down, right?
Right.
You
Mhm.
just have to be able to focus on that one thing and get that one task figured out, and that's it. I mean, because like when it comes to stuff like that, I'm very military, right? This task, that task, this task, and
Yeah.
and that's just how I do it.
Nice. Love it.
So, I know you said the boardroom was the first mastermind that you've actually paid for. Did you ever look into any other programs that you thought about buying or join any programs to learn about real estate when you were starting out?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I've bought other courses, right?
Yeah.
But I've never joined any mastermind. I
Right.
never felt like any mastermind that I looked at was going to be helpful to me, right?
Right.
Was of my caliber of people. And I actually knew of Boardroom from back in like 2017 because I attended an event. But it was nothing what it is now. I mean, it's like on super steroids. And like I walked in that room and I always feel like, I'm the big fish in the small pond. I walked in there and felt like a guppy. And I was like, okay, this is where I need to be at.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
felt like
think
I was nobody in that room. I was like, okay, now I'm in a place where I can grow. Because I just felt like I couldn't grow anywhere else. And that's important because you like kind of hit a ceiling and you feel like, okay, well, is there anything else to this real estate thing? And I go in there and I'm talking to, all these other boardroom members and billionaire boardroom members, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, now I have something to strive for. All right, I'm trying to be where you're at. Because having all the nice stuff, the car, the house, and all that stuff. But I was like, is that it?
Right.
And because like you get to a certain point in your life where you have to keep reevaluating and keep setting greater goals,
Yeah.
right? Like you achieve. I had this sign in my mirror for like 10 years of all the stuff I wanted to do: buy an apartment complex, do this many houses, do all that kind of
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
And once you only got like 1 or 2 left, you're like, okay, what do I do now? But you have to have the example of the person to look up to and says, okay, I've reached the top of my hill, but I want to go to the top of his mountain.
Right.
Yeah, because some of the guys in there were blowing my mind. I'm like, I left there feeling so excited.
Right? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I was calling my wife every time I went to the hotel room. Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. And I love hearing that because, I think it is something that we get carried away with, right? When you're starting out, you're just like focused on finding that first deal, or, then you do a couple deals and you're like, all right, now how do I grow and scale? And it's still like, we're all limited by our own beliefs, right? And what we think is
Absolutely.
what we can achieve.
Absolutely.
And so it's not until you put yourself in a room and surround yourself by this other group of people where now it's like,
monsters.
Okay, next
Yeah.
level.
Savages.
Like, I can level up.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And I really do love the boardroom. I think a lot of what he says, focuses on mindset. John Gordon did a great presentation as well. And like, that's where I'm really focused on nowadays.
Look,
is
this short caveat, right? I
Yep.
used to make everyone that I hired read his book, The Energy Buff.
Yeah.
And when he was actually there, and I'm like, the same guy? I was like, oh, shucks, this guy's
Right.
actually here.
You're like, that's not a coincidence. I'm in this room.
Yeah. And then I went home and read the book that he was talking about, The Coffee Beans. You guys haven't checked it out, check it out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I just finished the Energy Bus, and I actually bought the series he has for children. So it includes the Coffee Bean and the Energy Bus and a few other books for kids. And I bought them for my son, and so we've been reading those at night.
Awesome, yeah.
I love it. I'm really big into pushing that stuff with my kids. And even what you said earlier, of like you watching your family. And that you didn't know it at the time, but it impacted how you think, right? So
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story. My son, right before Christmas, was telling me he wanted a hoverboard. And I was like, do you really want me to go get $200 out of your piggy bank and go buy you a hoverboard? Or do you want to wait until Christmas? Maybe you can ask someone. Because I was like, don't forget, your hoverboard's a liability. It's not an asset, honey. And my son's only 7 years old, Joe, but I've had conversations with them about assets and liabilities.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yes. Got to do it.
Son, you know what he said? He thinks for a minute and then he's like, maybe I can rent out my hoverboard.
But see, that's the mindset you have to be training them on, right?
Yep.
Right.
And that's awesome. He's like, well, no, I'm not going to spend my money on that. But if I can spend it and I can get a return on it, then that works.
I was like, wow, I already saw the light bulb.
I know you felt proud. It
was such a proud mama moment right there. I was like, dang, and he's only 7. My 9-year-old already told me, he's like, Mom, I'm not ready yet because I still have a lot to learn, but I think when I'm 10, I'm going to be ready to start my own business.
Yep. There you go.
I was like, 10. He's like, do you think a lot of 10-year-olds start their own business? I'm like, no, but I'll help you start whatever business you want to start. So
there you go.
I love that, right? It all comes down to the mindset and just being around.
Absolutely, because I have a 15-year-old. She just turned 15. She's trying to get her license. Y'all pray for me, okay? Y'all pray for me. And I'm asking, like, okay, well, she was like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get you a little hoopty, a little bucket, ride around it. She's like, no, a BMW or a Mercedes.
Oh no.
I'm like, you don't have no money. Me and your mama got some money. You broke. I was like, so her mother said, well, here's what we'll do. If that's what you want, I will show you how to start a store and you can work for the money. and you run the ad. Because like my daughter, she's amazing. She makes websites. She does some coding,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
and she was like, okay, you take your skill set that you have, and you start to put this stuff together, and you start to sell these products online. And as you make money, then you can get whatever you want, and we'll pay the insurance, but you're gonna pay for it. We're not gonna pay for it. Okay,
Yeah.
well, where I grew up, did you buy? Did your parents buy your first car?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Why are we training these people, these children, that that's what they deserve? No, that's not what we're doing around here.
Yeah. No, that's great. All right, Jake, you got any last questions before we wrap up here with Joe? Because we just hit the 32-minute mark.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think thank you for touching base on that military stuff. I think that was awesome.
Sure,
You know,
absolutely.
there's a large portion of people that I served with, and you know, a lot of other folks out there that don't really realize the full benefits or opportunities,
yeah.
really. So thank you for touching base on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, guys, one thing I want to say before we get out of here, which is the ultimate mistake that I actually wanted to talk about before we get out of here,
Oh yeah.
Okay.
is picking the right partner.
Okay.
I have done it wrong 3 times already. And it's like getting married,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
You have to make sure that you vet this person, that your values are aligned, that you know their integrity matches your integrity, that you both have the same work ethic, and that you know that if you're struggling, they're going to help you, and vice versa. I've made that mistake 3 times already, and that's the biggest thing that. And like, so to the point now where I probably will never pick another partner. When I step out of my business again, I'll probably just pay someone to be my CEO because of
Yeah.
coaching.
Right.
But yeah, that's my biggest thing, and I want to share with all of your viewers and listeners is, look, when you do that, just take your time. You know, just like when you start into a relationship, you know, date a little while, go out, have some drinks, you know, get to know somebody. You don't meet people in the first 90 days. That's just their representative.
Right. Yeah. Right.
90 days. That might be closer to 6 months, Joe. I don't know.
6 months, right? And just make sure, because now I do have other partnerships and other businesses that are fantastic.
Yeah.
Especially like with some of my, like a lot of private money guys to lend me money. We end up being business partnerships because we kind of our ambitions align. We're the yin to the yang kind of deal, right?
Right.
Yes.
And
Yep.
because of that, those work. But I find if you're trying to get out of something and you just put a person in place to try to fill your void, is what I did. That's my mistake. You end up on top of Crapola Hill. And then you end up back in the position where you didn't want to be anyway, fixing those mistakes,
Yeah.
and then rebuilding the business.
Yeah. You know, and I think that hits home even for Jake and I, because first of all, I've been in other terrible partnerships. So when Jake and I started, we actually met at an event, and he, over the next 6 months, we were on the phone every week, and he ended up wholesaling me 4 projects. So kind of like you're
Wow.
talking about
That's
dating, right?
Yeah.
Like, we just spoke on the phone every week. He sold me 4 properties, and this was over a 6-month span. So we really got to know each other. We did that whole dating portion.
Absolutely.
And then when we started talking about doing an LLC together, we were like, well, we're going to have to like bring in some mentors. We actually had coaching calls with mentors. Like, what would you recommend we do? We took all those different personality
That's fabulous. That's fabulous.
tests,
That's like going to sit on the couch with a marriage counselor.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
Right.
and
In
we
the
talked
beginning,
about
though.
things like we talked about things because, you know, I'm married, Jake's married. I'm like, is there any issues in your relationship that I need to know about? Because if you get divorced,
Yo, that is a great question.
That might lead to other issues. Like, do you have any addictions that I don't know about? Like, let's get it all out there, right? So we
see, you guys had a real talk.
We
Oh,
did.
yeah. We had many real talks. It was about 40 hours.
And so you guys went 2 and 3 levels deep, and that's where was my mistake. I was like,
Yeah,
let me
and
just put you right here.
well, and honestly, I think even now, if we fast forward, even though we have a great relationship, one of the things that we've started implementing now is like
Yeah.
one of our VAs that been with us the longest, we've moved her more into like an office manager role because Jake
Yep.
was like, I don't want to be the manager anymore. I need to fulfill that role.
Yep.
And I think even though we have a great partnership, we've kind of given her maybe too many responsibilities too fast, right? And sometimes we have to take a step back and we see like, okay, she's not really problem solving the way we would if we were in that position as a manager. So I think it's come with a learning curve where, just like you're saying, it's like we give her some responsibilities and certain things she does great at, and certain things all of a sudden we have to step back in and fulfill that role again. Right? So I think that comes with just learning how to grow and expand and build your team and having the right people in place, but also like monitoring them, like staying on top of them. You can't just be like, here's the keys to the role.
Yeah, and
right?
look, and I did it. I was like, here's the keys to Daddy's Lambo, and I mean, they crashed it 3 times. You ever see on Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Oh,
when they're in the garage and they're like trying to roll back the miles, and he kicks the bumper and he kicks it, and it goes down over the hill. Man, that was it 3 times.
3 times.
No.
And I was like, okay, you know what? God's trying to tell me something. He was like, look, you keep putting the wrong people in the wrong seat, and you need to take your time and actually get a mentor and some help to figure this out and get it done right. So you don't have to keep coming back here and learning this lesson.
Yeah.
Because it's an expensive lesson.
It is. It really is. Because like you said, I've gone through business partners where it felt like I got a divorce from that business partner, right?
Man,
because
say it again.
you had to separate all the things, all the bank accounts, all that stuff. So that's not fun either. So I actually
it is just like a marriage. It is just like look, anybody you got to file taxes with, you involved with.
Yeah, it's true.
But if you find the right one though, just like a good marriage, man, you can't live without it.
Yeah.
And it'll be forever. So guys, man, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been great.
All right. So Joe,
Likewise,
if anybody
absolutely.
wants to get in touch with you after this, what's the best way? Instagram, Facebook, website?
So they can find me at Joe Ebanks on Facebook. On Instagram, I am Cashman Pays Cash. Or they can just look up Joe Ebanks either way. Or they can just call my office, 813-756-8707. Or they can email me at info@exitbuyer.com if they want to set up an appointment or talk to me, or hit me up for a Calendly link, and we'll make it happen.
Nice.
Believe it.
Do you have an office that somebody could clean to receive some mentoring from you?
No, I am actually virtual. Everybody that works for me are virtual assistants now. Nice. COVID taught me that. I cut my payroll in like a quarter. Nice. I got rid of the big 2,000 or 3,000 square foot office. My office is in my house in my basement. And actually today I was just looking at a little office space up the road just to be able to get out of my house. But that's it. I am not looking to build a big, huge, machine. With the technology today, you can do that without having everybody all up on top of you.
Yeah, I love that. So you know what, Joe, I'm definitely going to reach out to you because I want to schedule a time with Lisa to get on here. I think it will be great for her to go over some of her areas of expertise with the business loans and things like that.
Yeah, business credit consultant is what she calls herself.
All right, credit consultant. And we will get you back on here in a few months and we will talk about some more things because I think you just have such a plethora of knowledge and really appreciate your time.
I got plenty more mistakes.
I appreciate you, Joe. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye.